a podcast by Neutral Voices Media Group,
Your opinion's important, so you gotta speak out. Don't let your chance to be heard pass by. Spell out, let me hear you loud, crowd. Shout it out real loud. Everybody wake up. Shout it out real loud. Everybody wake up. Wake up. No time for sleeping on the issues. This is Neutral Voices. We gon' deal with the issues.
What do you really want? What they
Welcome to you. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we are going to be talking about civil rights and watch this, the dream or the nightmare.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, you said that's a good point.
It's a good point because that's a question we have to ask.
But are you thinking about Dr. King and the dream? Mm-hmm. But I'm actually talking about civil rights.
I'm speaking of both too.
Okay,
yeah.
I was going to say
it's a mix though.
But I just wanted to make sure we keep it all in perspective.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about both.
Right.
Okay, you can't talk about the civil rights movement in that era without talking about Dr. King.
Yes, correct.
So with that, let's go into a little history about the civil rights movement.
Now, the civil rights movement, and I want to make this perfectly clear so nobody get misconstrued, and we're not disrespecting it because it was a historical and it was a helpful event in some aspects of America, where when Dr. Martin Luther King and all those that stood up for the civil rights movement in the late 50s, 60s, well, it actually started earlier, like in the 30s and the 40s, they were formulating it, but it did not come to a head until the movement we saw in the late 50s, early 60s, and into the 70s. That's when we really knew what the civil rights movement was. But there were already things going on and people fighting and doing all different kinds of things. And when you say the dream or nightmare, it was not just his dream because it was a lot of other people fighting. So a lot of people had this vision, this idea of what America could be like. We can't disrespect or forget Medgar Evers, all the people that fought in getting this done. But what I think happened historically when they presented it, they gave us this broad picture of what America could be like if everybody was created equal and treated equally. But that's not what was delivered. So, there were some fights and there were some things, and we're still, unfortunately, fighting the things that we asked for 40 and 50 years ago. So historically, we paused. We moved inches, but we didn't gain any miles.
Okay, and so with that, one of the questions I want us to think about as we go through this conversation is, who are we as a people? Because we're so quick to talk about Dr. King.
Right, I got you on
or
that.
Malcolm X.
Yes.
What they didn't do right.
Yes.
Right.
What they should have done, right?
Correct.
So as we move through this conversation, I want us to think about who we are and what have we done.
Got you.
And what are we doing?
True.
And what are we going to do?
Great conversation, because I got some points on all of that.
Okay.
I got some points on all of that.
You actually just hit it all of it on the nail.
Okay.
I mean, because at the end of the day, guess what? If we don't sit back and reflect on what our past have done and focus on what we can do versus what our past have done, on top of what our past have done, we'll never move forward.
That's right.
And I think too, before we go on, when you said that, a lot of people are like, yes, I saw the vision, I see the dream, but the problem is Dr. King didn't want people to just see the dream. He wanted people to be the dream
True.
and participate
That's true.
in the dream.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So let's get into this.
All right. So historically speaking, so if I can, so going back to Dr. King.
Yes.
Well, first of all, can I call him Michael just for a second? So I want to say this to everybody. If you have not seen, the new series called Genius.
Yes.
You need to look for it. You need to see it. Start watching it because I believe the new episodes start tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Friday,
yes.
every Friday.
Every Friday.
Yep.
So super good. and it's talking about, or it goes into the life of Dr. King as well as Malcolm X.
Yes.
Because we have these people, it's like split,
Right.
right? It's like the battle of.
Right.
Shouldn't be that. So I think
And it was a difference of ideas, but never an indifference in people. And I think this series is showing that, but it was portrayed that now they had different ideas and different methods, but they were never indifferent to each other.
Exactly. But isn't it interesting how people today are?
Right.
And some people still try to put them at odds,
Right.
even though, they're not here.
Right.
And so, but anyway, so with choosing sides, so I bring that up to say that, first of all, it's educational.
Yes.
And so if you don't know anything about either, then that's definitely worth the watch.
Yes.
I know I think I caught it on Hulu.
That's where
And so it could be on another channel.
It's on
but
Hulu,
definitely
Disney,
Hulu.
or National Geographic.
Okay. Yes. Sponsored by National
Yes.
Geographic. Anyway, so with that being put out there, you will learn a lot. So one of the things I wanted to kind of mention is about Dr. King and the way he was raised. So when you look at him coming from a family, I'm going to say of love and protection,
Yes.
et cetera, right? Being brought up in a Christian household, so a house of faith, so to speak. So you kind of understand when he set out on his journey, you kind of understand why he took the position
True.
he took. And then they also parallel the story in the life of Malcolm X, and then you too will understand the reason and why he went the way he went.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, but one thing I want to point out as we get into our conversation tonight, one of the books that Dr. King was fond of, he almost never left home without it, especially as he started his battle, because it was a battle, believe it or not. The book was called Jesus and the Disinherited. And in the book, he reveals the hounds of hell.
Yes.
It is a metaphor, but he talks about the hounds of hell.
Right.
And I want to mention those hounds of hell a little later, but I kind of want y'all to think about it
Gotcha.
a little bit and then see how the hounds of hell are still plaguing our community, our society, and our households today.
Right.
Okay,
Gotcha.
so let's get a little deeper in this. So let's talk about some of the progress and challenges post civil rights.
Some of the progress, well, we can look at, you got to gauge it because some people say it's a setback and some people say it's progress. Let's look at one is the job market. It opened up where we were able to, as a community, come into jobs that we were shut out of, things that we couldn't do. There's places in that we're allowed to be in now. There's movements because there's no separation where there was segregation or forced separation. So the bringing together or the breaking down of the barriers, I think that was the biggest progress. But it all depends on what side of the fence or how you see it, because it could be good and it could be bad. But I do think that is one of the best progress. And people, and I'm gonna go to this, but I'm gonna put it out there. But I'm gonna talk about this later when you say we the people. But we've seen a lot of first blacks, even the first black president, and things like that. We've achieved things that we weren't allowed or didn't have access to previously.
Okay. Wait, Jill, you seem like you wanted to say something right there.
Oh,
You
wait
gonna
a minute.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Please. You say the progresses, and you say the first black this and the first black that, but let's understand one thing. If we would have stayed in our own corner, like we was, you'd understand. We wouldn't have to say the first black this, the first black that. I'm gonna tell you why. Because at the end of the day, we had leaders before Martin Luther King,
That's true.
and our leaders before Martin Luther King had a strong following.
That's true too.
So if we would have stayed with our strong following with the leaders before Martin Luther King, should never been a first this or first that, because guess what? We already had it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you that point, but E, I want you to hold that point of view for later in the conversation, because I have something for that, but it's later in the conversation. But hold that thought about being in
I'ma hold that thought.
our lane.
'Cause
So,
I
so
got
I think
more
what
for it.
E is saying is there. So we would be saying the next one and another one and the
Correct.
next one and another one.
Exactly.
Okay, and not concentrating on the first.
first.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to some challenges and progress.
When we talk about progress, obviously we're not where we were then. But when I think of progress, I think that was a while ago. So why are, for example, white people still 46% more likely to get a callback on a resume if they have a white name than if they have a black name? And I'm talking about
Those are
now
challenges.
this year.
This-
So yes, but when we talk about progress, we have to also talk about like how we're not progressing.
That's
so
right.
yeah,
I got you.
there's access to things, and legally separating people is no longer a thing, but ethically, morally, the home ownership
That's
gap, the wealth gap,
There you
all
go.
of these gaps
That's
that
right.
still have not closed.
That's right, Jill. And that's what I see. I see a scale. And I was thinking about this thing, and I'm like, this is so much bigger than we really see. It's almost if you can picture Lady Liberty.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
go there. And there's a scale, right? And we got these people. If we had harmony, everything would be beautiful, right?
Yes.
So there's equality.
Yes.
But because the scale is definitely unbalanced, we have these people that continue to see themselves as superior.
Right.
And so as long as they are way up here and not understanding humility,
Yeah.
we could never get to the place of harmony.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
so, and therefore, so Jill, you're right. There's so many things, even something as simple as a name.
Right.
Right.
And so, we may say, oh, that's not a big deal, but it really is,
Right.
which parents need to be more careful when
Right.
they begin to
Right.
still today
Well,
name
see, and
their kids.
that's the biggest. And one of the things about it, and it bothers me. We say that parents need to be careful how they name their child.
Mm-hmm.
So, if a parent has to be careful how they name their child, that should let you know how unbalanced the world is.
Right.
Well, it is.
And then on top of that,
But-
and it goes back to what I say. If we stayed in our own little corner,
I want you to keep preaching that, E.
and people, and when I say that, and I say this because the simple fact of, a lot of people say, yeah, I need you to keep saying that, but if this, that, and the other. But here's the thing about it: I could go out into the world and work, and still bring it back
Yeah.
to my
That's true.
community.
That's true too.
So desegregation was a failure.
Exactly. But regardless of how you look at it, I could still go work in a manufacturing world.
Yes.
That's, black, white, whatever. But if I would stayed in my corner, I still could have built my corner out so big,
But you know what?
being that, hey, I could go over here and get this money and bring it back here.
And I'm not arguing that point.
Okay.
And I do agree with everything you guys are saying. I just looked at the progresses, but Jill, you are absolutely correct when you say we can't assess progress when we are still at a state,
Being racially profiled.
Exactly.
Because here's a staggering fact. This is an actual fact. Post Civil War, this is not civil rights. Black Americans own 1% of America's wealth. What year are we in now? 2024. You know what the change is? Black Americans own 1.5% of America's wealth.
Exactly.
So that is a staggering thing that goes into that. Think about this also. The black dollar, the making of the money where you say you go work in the, a black dollar is at 63 cents on a dollar modern today. Where if it's a white man's dollar, it's a whole dollar, and the black man's dollar is valued at 63 cents. You see that's already a 37% gap in the wealth gap. As Jill saying, the hiring, and the job, America's in last year, I think it was last year, unemployment, Black American unemployment has reached a low of 20%. But that's over 50 years, it's only declined 30%. It's only like 13 or 14% for white America. So you see these disparities that we still have that we're fighting for.
So I saw something actually that said black wealth is increasing over the last few years. However, the chart also showed while that is increasing, the racial wealth gap is increasing as well.
Yes.
So that right there, if you know nothing about civil rights or XYZ, if black wealth is increasing and the gap is also increasing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Okay, and so that goes back to the scale, and so that's what I'm saying. So as long as we, as a society, a country, a nation, etc., as long as we have this unbalance,
Yes.
and we have superior versus inferior, right? The superior see themselves as
Right.
superior, right? Because of status, because of the size of the gap.
Right.
And so until we can change that, then we're going to always have the gap. But
Right.
here's this question. So if we look a little bit further down the road, so forget about, the type of leaders we had, and I want to visit those type of people here in a second, but thinking about moving forward, you talked about having the first black president. So outside of that, what other progress, when we start looking at the cultural impact of the civil rights movement on today, what are we happy about? Because I know how you feel about the whole, we should have stayed over here. They should have stayed over there. But then I'm afraid running the streets today, I'm talking about to now, I might get killed by my own kind. And the only reason I'm saying that is because there's so much senseless killing. Heartless killing amongst our own people, our own community.
And I'm going to give you the reason why is that. First and foremost, and I'm not saying that I need to be over here and you need to be over here. One of the biggest things about the whole situation is, if you look at in that times, where was the fathers at?
You're saying they were in the homes.
Yes.
It was in the
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
So if you got a father in the home, and people like, the fathers don't mean no. Fathers mean more than anything in the household.
They matter. Yes.
So if I have a father in a household that has a structural understanding on how to move and how to move his family, you don't have the senseless killing. You don't have all the extra stuff, because guess what? The father is there to structure.
Should be.
Yeah.
No, they will be structured. Even me and Clarence always talk about Fences.
Right.
That movie Fences.
Yes.
Regardless of how harsh he was, he made sure it was structured.
Yes.
Structure, but
regardless-
structure is not always a positive structure, because that's why we have parents going
And I
to
get
jail
that.
now because
And I
they got
get that, and
guns
I get that,
in the
and I
kids'
get that.
hand.
And I get what you're saying, but it's structure. Period.
Yeah.
So if you don't have structure in the home, you have no control.
Right.
So if there's no control, so with us being in our own little lane, regardless if we go, put it like this, regardless if we go work at a white factory, we come home and stay in our zone. Everything moves perfectly, and that's one of the things. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be structured.
I
Yeah,
think-
but that sounds contradictory.
I think that's one of the top, like when we were talking earlier about things that Dr. King would be proud of today, or policies he would be proud of, and things that would upset him, is I think the breakdown of the family structure would
Exactly.
be way at the top of the list. As
Right,
far as-
and that, yep, I'm going there. So,
Yep.
I'm glad you
I'm
mentioned
glad,
that.
yeah.
But that
I
is
mean, that's the top of the list.
when I talked about the people. Clarence, you wanted to say
But
something?
you were asking, about where do we see future leaders and things like that. Now, again, it depends on who you talk to and how people gauge it. Now, a lot of people are saying the younger generation are becoming more awake or woke is the term. They're becoming more woke and understanding and seeing things, and they want different change because they're not in the same mentality of we're going to keep this repetitive cycle. But then you talk to those, as you say, that you fear that we're in a downward spiral. We're not connecting to our history. We're not we're more hoodlums and thugs than we are,
Exactly.
leaders and future leaders. But it depends on what side you're looking at. I think we have both sides, because now internet good and bad, but it do give you more access and technology to you can understand and you can change things versus then there's some that just don't want to change or they're in their space and so
Yeah.
I think we'll have to see. We can't write the young generation off. We can't say that they're lost, though many of us continue to say they are, but it's going to be some changes.
Okay, now you said something. You said a couple things I wanted to comment on, so I probably won't get to all of them or what I really want to talk about. But anyway, so you mentioned woke.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, I'm saying there's people walking around here woke, but you do know there's a such thing as sleepwalking, right?
Right.
So even though they look woke,
Right.
they think they're woke,
Right.
but they're really
And woke
still
is one of those
sleep.
terms that
and I
it's
know,
like
and
in
I'm
the eye of the
saying-
beholder.
and one of those terms that people are just saying 'cause
Yes,
it
yes, saying
sounds
yes,
good.
yes.
But so that was one thing. But then the other thing, what I was trying to say, kind of going back to what E said and what you said. So I'm not really talking about just the fear of being over on the black side. So let me just point it out real quick. So fear is one of the hounds of hell.
Yes.
Okay, fear paralyzes us and keeps us in a certain state of being, a state of mind, which also keeps us economically in a stagnant state of
Correct.
being, right?
Yes.
So I'm saying fear sometimes paralyzes us. I'm talking about sometimes when you're reliant on our people, and I'm talking about from a perspective of being a business owner
Right.
for 30 years, and you just relying on our people, you will never make it, right? When I'm talking about closing the wealth gap, because some of our people will not come and patronize me, period, because of my location or because of my complexion.
Right.
I'm gonna ask you a question, and I love what you just said. That was a beautiful thing that you said. This is why I said if we stayed on our side of the fence.
But that's why I'm
Hold
saying
on, let
I'm
me finish.
scared.
Let me finish.
I got what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Clarence know where I'm finna go with it.
Okay, come on.
If we would have stayed on our side of the fence, there's nothing wrong with going over there, working on the other side and bringing it back.
Okay.
So we would stay where we were supposed to be at and build our own and keep building our own.
Okay.
So let's look at Tulsa. They built their own. I mean, they was one of the biggest black-owned communities
Right.
in America.
But
Hold on, no, ain't no but. Because they relied on each other.
exactly.
So if we rely on each other and keep moving as far as relying on each other,
That
our state of mind would have been something instead of something different. And then here's the other part about it. Being that, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be,
enjoy your night. Come on.
yeah. The white people got upset because of the simple fact we didn't have to go to them.
Yeah.
Right.
We went to each other.
And that
And as long as we look at each other as equal and we kept that mindset,
there you go. I was just getting ready to say the mindset.
we
is
kept that
different
mind.
now.
Yeah, that mindset right there, regardless of, I'm going to put it like this. How many people go to McDonald's and McDonald's mess up their order 100
Right.
times?
100 times.
And they keep going. But the mindset is, Dr. V messed up on my sandwich.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I'm
not
still
going
going to go to
back.
Dr. V.
I'm not going back.
And I don't.
And their mind said, I'm not going back because, no, go back, patronize, talk to that person, and understand so that person can understand what they did wrong so it can be corrected. And it's not to argue or to yell and talk crazy. It's the conversation. People fail to realize a simple conversation
But
could smooth out.
I got to get
everything
in
the
on this.
world.
Go ahead,
Am I
Dr. But I
correct,
want
Doc?
to get in that.
I definitely got you. I just want to say he was going into the second hound of hell because I wanted to make
Go
sure
ahead.
we didn't miss him. The other one is deception.
Yes.
And so sometimes, what people believe, that false reality.
Well, I
Yeah.
There you
also,
go.
how he
Throw you
explained it, I was thinking of like a visual in my head because what he's talking about was how the mindset was when everybody was over here. So I still believe that it was intentional by the white man to make everybody over here because they knew what the mindset was over here. And this time it was the white man's fear that they were going to be overtaken if this still happened. So they made it so enticing.
Right.
If you come over here, well, the problem is instead of relying on each other here now you're over here and you are no longer relying on each other because you have been made to feel like you need this. And I don't think that the need was there. I agree with E.
Right, but I don't even think they wanted us there, though, Jill.
Well,
I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
see-
They didn't want us there either.
Right.
But here's the funny part about it. They didn't want us over there.
That's right. And
But they didn't want us to have our
Right.
own.
It was more
That's
dangerous
right.
to be over here.
So it's more, man, Jill, shut your mouth and call me yesterday. Because there was more fear, the fact that as long as we stick together,
That's right. On
matter
one
of fact,
accord.
was it FBI or whoever,
J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover said the biggest
Threat to
terrorist
America.
threat to America
Yes.
Is the
was the
unity of the
United
black-
of the Black
Yes.
man.
That's
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it's not the point that I can't deal with or I can't
Yeah.
work with Jill. But as long as I take my money, Jill got a multi-billion-dollar company, and I work for Jill. I take the money that Jill give me. I don't go over there. I'm gonna go back over here
Yeah.
and say I'm finna build my community. And the more I build my community, now you think I'm finna overturn you. I don't want nothing to do with your
Right.
what you got going on. As long as I got this over here, I'm good. And that's what people fail to realize as far as, I'm going to say this. Take how you want to enjoy your night.
I knew it was coming.
The dream that Dr. King or the vision that Dr. King brought to us was a false vision. And it was a false dream. And I'm being real about it.
I'm agree with that, but go ahead, Doc V. Before
No,
I
I want you to. I want you to go ahead and talk.
Okay, he said a whole lot, and I'm gonna agree in whole parts, but I got to dissect some of the things that he said, only for context purposes. But you are right. I'm gonna finish with that last one. I do believe the dream was a bad bill of goods, and I'm gonna give you the A number one reason why the dream was a failure from the get go. If you say wanted to go, and he quoted the Constitution, where he wanted America would stand up where every man was equal and could pursue inalienable rights of happiness, the pursuit of happiness. I'm not paraphrasing right now.
Yeah.
But the problem with that was that never was going to change because they were never going to change the Constitution. If you ever ran a business, the one thing you got to do, you set up bylaws, and you can amend your bylaws.
Right.
And you can amend your bylaws as many times as you want, but you can only change your bylaws once, but you can amend them. You can only edit it once, but you can amend them as many times as needed. That's where our rights come in these amendments. But you got to think about it. When they created equal, you got to look at what a man was at that time. The man at that time was not a black man, not a black woman. It wasn't even the white women.
Exactly.
It was not even the white women. So when you say every man, it was to be created equal. Every man in their vision was to be created equal. So no, from the get go, that's why I say yes. It was not gonna be fulfilled in the way that they were talking. Now, I guess if they could go back and amend it now, they would have, because they messed up when they put every man, and they didn't specifically say man, but they didn't think we were ever going to become free. So they never think that we would be recognized as men. So yes, in the whole scheme of things, as the dream is to be developed, it was never going to be what they thought it was, because they were not going to go change the bylaws.
Okay.
Not going to change the bylaws.
Okay.
He said separate but equal. That's a premise. I believe it could have worked, but there's only one problem, and I want to illustrate this to you. You cannot be an adult living in your mama's and daddy's house thinking you're going to make your own rules in your mama and daddy's house. We're still living in somebody's house.
Exactly.
As much as the rules, we're not going to be able to set our own rules. So that separate but equal is a great idea, and I believe it could work, but it only can work so much, because you can only have freedom. I mean, you can
So
be
that's
grown.
a falsehood.
That's a
So there's a
falsehood.
deception.
There's
That's
a
what I'm
deception.
talking about. So
And I'm going to give you that one, but here's the other part about the separate but equal. At the end of the day, guess what? If I have Dr. V, I got you, I got Joe Blow going to that table and said, regardless of what you say or how you feel, this was going to happen over here. And we have to stand on that, because if we got us all as a unit, guess what? Here's the biggest part about that. Guess where our money's spent at?
I was getting to that.
So if our money is spent a certain way,
I was getting to that.
and understand, and we understand how to spend our money, you can't tell us nothing.
Yeah,
because guess what? I'm spending my money this way, and this way, and you can't tell me I have to spend my money this way, over here, and over there.
If he wanted to tell you, he could tell you tonight, because we are out of time.
We're out of time. We keep it moving.
Before you shut us down, Dr. I just got one more thing. And he said this, and he made sense about us supporting one another and, doing things like that. And you mentioned this earlier, and I want to point this out, because I don't want to put the whole blame and the whole shoulders on the white man.
That's right.
Now,
Right.
No, it's not. It's
That-
our fault.
hold on. I don't want to put it on the whole.
So
the brunt of it.
Take
is
it
us.
there and take it to what I was saying when I was like, who are we?
Yeah,
So
and I was trying to get to that.
okay.
The brunt of it is still, because there's still systematic things that we can't overcome. And like I said, they're not
Right.
going to change the bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
But the brunt of it, we're not going to place. There's a whole lot of us that are destroying us.
Correct.
Now,
Okay, get
the
out my
reason the
notes.
wealth gap is like it is because we want to live rich,
Yep,
but don't want to be
consumerism.
wealthy.
Consumerism,
we want to look.
absolutely.
We want to look.
Shut your mouth
We
about
will buy
yesterday.
everything. We
Yes.
look rich. We don't have the mindset of. He was saying we don't have the mindset of saving, investing, coming together in corporations.
Now you see
Exactly.
why deception is one of the
Yes,
hounds of
it's one of
hell
the
yes.
on all sides
Yes.
of us.
So, but not only that, money is the first thing, but we don't not only invest in money with each other. We don't invest in time, our personalities, our talents. We don't invest all of that in each other. I will take.
When you say we, somebody out there saying not all
I'm
of
talking
us,
about
bruh.
not all of us.
I know.
but I'm saying as a general sense. Let's talk in a general sense,
I know.
because that's where and there's no absolute to anything.
Yes, yes.
So I'm speaking in a general sense. If you want to put a blanket statement on
That's
it,
right.
that I normally don't do, but I'm just saying in a general sense
Yes.
for the purpose of this conversation right now.
Man,
so,
I got something for the wealth gap.
so
I'm gonna
if
show you.
That's for the next
no,
show.
yeah, hold on. But so if we not only invest, see, too many times, and I know money makes the world go round and all that, but if we let money be the byproduct of the things that we did, then it will help us better. But we put money at the forefront. That's why a lot of our leaders, a lot of our business people, that's why they leave, because they think the grass is greener on the other side. So, the dollar is greener on the other side. It doesn't matter how many dollars you make. If you're a black man, it's still 63 cents to the dollar of that white man.
Actually, it's less.
Is it less?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
got it.
Okay.
It's
This,
less.
this is going to be for the next show.
Yeah. So,
No, it's not gonna be
but
for
what I'm
next show.
saying is, and I'm trying to get out of here, Doc V. Just let me finish.
Okay.
And even our neighborhoods where we're talking about, and he mentioned the fathers. You don't have to be a physical father. We have eliminated father figures because we're letting young men just wander, and we're not stepping
Yes.
up. We're not being participant.
Correct.
We don't have uncles, we don't have grandfathers, we don't have brothers. Our big brothers from our age, they taught us how to get over, not how to come up.
Yeah.
And that's been a problem in our community. We teach how to get over and not how to come up.
Yeah.
We don't change the mindset. We change the scheme.
Yeah, just go
So
a
if we
different
start
direction.
teaching how to come up instead of how to get over, those are things
So
we
the
have
question
to.
is, then who are you?
That's
For
where
real.
we gotta first define us.
Okay.
And once we define us, we
And
gotta
who-
go find
And
us.
who are we?
Man.
You say in your words, who do you want people out there to know we are? I say we are God's glory personified.
There you
we
go.
should be.
Yes.
Who do you say we are?
I'm agree with that, but we are a nation.
Okay.
We are a nation of warriors. We are a nation of intelligent people. Every science that has ever been taught came from black people.
So you're saying we're not a second class
No,
citizen?
we're not a second class citizen.
Okay.
We're not.
But we believe that. So we got
Deception again.
Deception again.
Yes.
Which I gotta give my last one. I told you it was 3 hounds of hell. Anybody guess? Anybody know? You gotta know it. It's hatred. That's what
where we-
causes
War.
and continues to keep the divide
And that's
amongst all cultures within the culture. outside the culture.
Yeah.
It's hatred. So don't forget the 3 hounds of hell. You got to know who you are. If you're going to play the game of life, in order to play it right and to survive it, you have to understand the hounds of hell exist to destroy you, to destroy us, and to keep us from loving each other.
There you go.
Which is what we need ultimately.
But you know something.
We got to close on that one. That was good.
You know something.
Let E close it. Come on, E.
I can't.
What you got?
because-
You got to close on that one, Dr.
Hey,
Come on.
Hey, protect your
got it.
mind. That's all I can say because you killed it on that. Yeah,
that was it, Dr.
that was it.
I'm not-
That was
hey,
it.
That's in the book, Jesus
Hey.
and the Disinherited. You got to read it.
That was it.
Yes. This is Neutral Voices. As we always say, and E has said it, but it's worth saying again.
Always protect your mind.
Thank you.